She was the daughter of Henry Joseph Vito and Anne Cordes Vito. As you probably already know, Francis Marion died at his plantation Pond Bluff, 1795, located 4 miles east of Utah Springs in the upper St. John's Parish. He was buried in his brother's plantation, Belle Isle Plantation, St. Stephen's Parish, Berkeley County. The Huguenots. Thank you. Do we have a moment for questions? Yes. Yes.
I was looking at Benjamin Marion's will.
Yes.
Will.
Yes. It's there.
It seems like Marion in that will is spelled M-A-R-I-O-N.
You get different spellings. Sometimes it's M-A-R-Y. String. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Good question. I just don't know. Yes, please.
I've got some questions. Maybe you can go in a little deeper. What led? It's obvious that the Edict of Nantes was produced because Henry IV was probably still a closet Protestant, from what you're saying, that he chose
Yes.
he chose to be elected to become Catholic.
Yes.
Okay, my question is, after the 1598 Edict, then about 100 years, 85 years later, you had the reversal of that.
Yes.
The Edict of Nantes, and then in 1787, before Napoleon really takes over, then you had going back to the Edict of Toleration.
Right.
What led to these? What's happening in France
Right.
to make these political decisions?
Good point. The religious conflict is probably difficult for us to penetrate. It is for me. Some of my dearest friends are Catholic priests. I'm a Protestant. I have so much in common with them, theologically and ethically. So this is a different world, but different. The conflict between the Catholics and the Protestants. And not all of the Protestants in France were Huguenots, okay? But between the Catholics and the Huguenots was extremely bitter. So much so that it produced violence, unspeakable violence. And this accelerated, accumulated, and the explosions that occurred. Remember, there were wars of religion in France before this, and then of course the wars of religion on the all over the continent. That just exploded into the kind of conflict that eventually called for these particular edicts. In one case, the end of toleration. Another case, the imposition of toleration. And they were simply trying to deal with the intense civil unrest that had erupted. There just isn't much more explanation than that. I mean, that's a lot. But remember, if I might just footnote something here. The Catholics in France, prior to this time, were in turmoil as well. The convent at Port Royal, there was an intense conflict between the Jesuits and the residents of Port Royal over Augustine's understanding of the will. So the Catholics themselves had been in intense conflict over the role of the will in salvation, and that, of course, had been aggravated by the Lutheran Reformation, and then the whole question of how does the human participate in the offer of salvation. And not to bother you with these terms endlessly, but big conflict between something called Pelagianism and semi-Pelagianism. You probably haven't fought anyone over that topic recently. but even that was a source of intense conflict between the Jesuits and well, Pascal. I'm sure you remember Pascal. Pascal was an opponent of the Jesuits because he himself was a strict Augustinian. And things that hardly cross our radar screen now were sources of intense conflict, not only in France but all over Europe. Just, yeah, it's difficult for us to access all of it. It is for me. I study this stuff, but all I can say is thank God I'm not there now. Yes, please.
Just for everybody's information, there's a recent historical novel that's been released by Ken Follett called A Column of Fire, and it goes through the wars of religion in England and France from 1540 to 1610, and it's very good work on describing what all involved and how nasty it got. But it's a novel, but it's very well written.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, please.
Two things. Can you say that the animosity between the two groups was largely due to the fact that the Protestants rejected the authority of the Pope?
Oh, yes, indeed.
Okay, so
Oh,
that's,
yes, indeed.
all right. And the second is, what is the derivation of the word Huguenot?
We don't know. That's a good question. There are supposed answers, but not definitive. I think one may be reliable is that one of the Calvinist leaders was of the name Hugues, H-U-G-E, and that perhaps Huguenot derives from that particular name, but I don't know for sure. I do not. Yes, please.
Would you comment briefly on the Huguenot settlements in Virginia, Richmond, South? There's the Lothian coal mines. There were several hundred families that settled in an area that worked in the coal mines before the Revolution.
Ooh, I don't know, but I do know that some of the Huguenots came down from Virginia into South Carolina. But I'm sorry, I don't know. Yeah. Yes, please.
Do you know if any came down from Boston?
I don't think so. However, this title, as you probably know, comes from, let me get a reference here real fast. The title, When France Opened Its Veins, comes from a book by Hester Hoskins Forbes. Paul Revere and the World He Lived In. And you're from Boston.
Yes.
Yeah. And you're familiar with that book?
Well, yes, because Revere's name really wasn't Revere.
That's right. Exactly. It was changed. Yeah. I don't think so.
But there was a Marion family in Boston in the 1600s, and the very first clerk of the Suffolk County, which is city of Boston, court was Marion.
Of all things.
Of all things.
Of all things. Yes, please. Now I want to take just a moment to do a bit of theology, okay? You couldn't expect it,
It's good deal for you. I understood that the Huguenots were from Calvinism, which is
Yes.
Presbyterian. Right?
Yes.
So how did the Huguenots relate to Presbyterians?
Well, that's a good point. A good question. The Presbyterians were Calvinists of Reformed. When we say Reformed theology, we understand that developments in Calvin's theology occurred after Calvin. Okay? Something called Protestant scholasticism developed. So you can't just say Reformed theology and make that synonymous with Calvin's institutes. Okay? But the Presbyterians were Reformed. They were Calvinists. But they did not have the same church polity, church government, form of church government as the Huguenots, okay? The Huguenots followed Calvin more closely in their understanding of church government. But theologically, very, very simple, no question about it. How do you relate Huguenot theology, Calvinist theology, to, let me come back to my notes here. How do you relate Calvinist theology, of which one very important part at that time, and this is still true, the doctrine of predestination. Okay? The Huguenots believed in predestination. That God in His sovereign wisdom elects some people to salvation. Double predestination says, and God elects some people to damnation. That's another controversy. But God elects some people to salvation. Now, how do you know if you're elect? Well, some of you are familiar with The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, written in 1904 by Max Weber, sociologist. I recommend you read this book, The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism. Weber says, the Protestant understanding of predestination gave rise to capitalism. Here's how. How do you know if you're elect?
You know.
Hmm?
You know.
You're jumping ahead of it. All right. If you are elect, God will likely favor you, right? And He will probably favor you materially. Now, according to Weber, one conviction fed the other. Namely, that if you believed yourself to be elect, you would be extremely prodigious, careful, ethical, monetarily, materially responsible. And as you succeeded in that effort, it would accumulate a confirmation of your election. So you can see that one would feed the other. So the more wealthy you became, the more confirmed you are in your election. So there is a distinct relationship between Huguenot success, material success in South Carolina, and Huguenot theology. And you ask yourself, and I'm going to quit with this, and what happened to the Methodists? Thank you. I have an answer. The Methodists just love the Lord.
Church of England. They might like to know
Yes, that's right. That's right. Here we are on the 500th anniversary of Martin Luther's nailing of the thesis. Yes. What a precious time. Listen, I want to send around, and I'll start it. Are you familiar with the Huguenot Church in Charleston? The Huguenot Church has been reestablished on a weekly basis. 10:30 each Sunday morning, the Huguenot Church conducts worship. The first song is in French, and the rest of the service is in English. I want to ask, how many Huguenots are here? I mean, that is to say, please stand. Look at that. And you guys should have been the ones up here speaking. Would you just call out some of the names? Read. What? Larrabee. Yes. your day. Okay, yes, please, sir.
Could you repeat the name of the author of the book, The Protestant Spirit of Capitalism?
Oh, yes, Max Weber, W-E-B-M, yeah. Protestantism and the Spirit of Capitalism. Required reading. Fascinating. Well, I've run out, I've used more time here than
I
I
did
should
not
have.
even try to write that one down.
I know.
Have you studied Hugh Bordeaux and
Yes, yes. Hugh Bordeaux is another story all by itself. Thank you.
It's fine to me if y'all continue to harass Al here, but you're on your own time. But he will be around, and we will get you back up here at lunchtime and let you ask all of your questions. But it's always, when you start playing with religion, it's always interesting to me of all the great battles we fought and everything like that for the love of God. Take your 15 minutes.